In the October 1st episode reviewing each state's worst natural disasters, we looked at some catastrophic ones, such as Hurricane Katrina, the Joplin tornado, and Hurricane Sandy. Let's move on to the next 10 states and see what their worst natural disaster was in part 4 of this series. Every day worldwide, natural disasters occur, and the United States is no stranger to them. In fact, America is one of the most prone countries in the world to natural disasters, thanks to its size, geology, and diverse climatic zones. In this week's episode, we are going to review the worst natural disasters in the next 10 states, including New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and South Carolina. Before we begin, if you enjoy geography, both physical and human geography, you'll love this channel. So be sure to subscribe to my channel, Our World Our Planet Our Home, if you want to view more videos. Let's get started. Let's begin in the desert southwest state of New Mexico. While New Mexico is a desert state, which is usually mild to hot throughout the year, it does sometimes get intense wintry weather. The blizzard of 1967 was one of these events. Over the course of several days in December, a powerful blizzard dumped more than 30 inches of snow in some areas, accompanied by fierce winds that created massive snowdrifts, some as high as 12 feet. The storm paralyzed much of the state, cutting off entire communities from essential supplies and services, including widespread disruptions across the Navajo lands, which span parts of New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. Many Navajo families were stranded in remote areas for more than a week, leading to 51 deaths. The National Guard was deployed to rescue stranded motorists and to deliver food and medical supplies to isolated residents. But unfortunately, for some, it was too late. In the Northeast, New York is diverse geomorphologically, from elevated inland areas with mountains and rolling hills to coastlines situated from New York City eastward into Long Island. This has provided the state with many natural disaster risks, and one that comes to mind is the Great Blizzard of 1888. This devastating snowstorm struck from March 11th to March 14th, blanketing the northeastern United States, including New York City, with up to 55 inches of snow. Strong winds created massive snowdrifts, some as high as 50 feet, paralyzing the city. The blizzard caused widespread chaos, with over 400 fatalities across the region, including around 200 in New York City alone. The storm disrupted transportation, caused building collapses, and severed communication lines, isolating the city for days. This intense blizzard had lasting impacts, prompting New York City to move its utility lines underground to prevent similar disasters in the future. In the southeastern United States, North Carolina is very susceptible to tropical cyclones and has seen many in its history. The worst natural disaster in North Carolina's history is Hurricane Hazel, which struck on October 15, 1954. This Category 4 hurricane made landfall near the South Carolina-North Carolina border with wind speeds up to 140 miles an hour. Hazel caused widespread devastation, especially along the North Carolina coast, where entire communities were flattened. Inland, the storm brought heavy rainfall and flooding, extending its destruction far beyond the coast. The hurricane was responsible for 19 deaths in North Carolina and left thousands homeless. The damage was so extensive that Hazel is often considered a benchmark for hurricanes in the region. The storm's impact led to significant changes in building codes and emergency preparedness in North Carolina. Moving to the upper central Midwest, North Dakota has an extreme continental climate, which features hot and humid summers and extremely cold and snowy winters, with severe weather conditions occurring during the warmer months. But the state is also prone to flooding, and the Red River flood of 1997 is considered one of its worst natural disasters. This catastrophic flood occurred in April 1997 after a harsh winter and rapid spring thaw that led to the Red River overflowing its banks. The flood devastated the cities of Grand Forks, North Dakota, and East Grand Forks, Minnesota, submerging large parts of both cities underwater. thousands of homes were destroyed and tens of thousands of residents were evacuated. The flood caused widespread damage, including a fire in downtown Grand Forks that destroyed 11 buildings. The disaster led to a massive relief and recovery effort, and it spurred changes in flood management and infrastructure in the region to prevent such a calamity from happening again. Ohio, also having a continental climate, sees variation in its weather, including heat waves, cold waves, snowstorms, severe weather, and drenching rains. The worst natural disaster in Ohio's history is the Great Flood of 1913. This devastating flood occurred in late March 1913 when heavy rainstorms hit the state, causing rivers, especially the Great Miami River, to overflow. The floodwaters submerged entire towns, with cities like Dayton being among the hardest hit. In Dayton, the floodwaters reached as high as 20 feet, destroying homes, businesses, and infrastructure. Over 400 people lost their lives across Ohio, and tens of thousands were left homeless. The economic damage was enormous, with entire communities needing to be rebuilt. The disaster led to significant changes in flood control and emergency management in Ohio, including the creation of the Miami Conservancy District, which built a series of dams and levees to protect against future floods. Oklahoma is centralized within Tornado Alley, a notorious geographic area of the United States with a high risk of tornadic activity. The worst natural disaster in Oklahoma's history is the Oklahoma City tornado outbreak of May 3, 1999. During this event, a series of powerful tornadoes swept across the state, with the most destructive being an F5 tornado that tore through the Oklahoma City metropolitan area. This tornado reached wind speeds of over 300 miles an hour, making it one of the most powerful ever recorded. The severe storm caused catastrophic damage, leveling entire neighborhoods and destroying thousands of homes. In total, 36 people lost their lives, and more than 8,000 homes were damaged or destroyed. The financial cost of the disaster was enormous, with damages exceeding $1 billion. This tornado outbreak remains one of the most significant in U.S. history, leading to advancements in tornado prediction and emergency response in Oklahoma. In the Pacific Northwest, Oregon is on a convergent plate boundary which features seismic activity, including earthquakes and stratovolcanoes. However, a seismic event wasn't the state's worst natural disaster. The worst natural disaster in Oregon's history is the Columbus Day storm in 1962. This powerful extratropical cyclone, known as the Big Blow, struck the Pacific Northwest on October 12, 1962. The storm brought wind speeds exceeding 100 miles an hour, with gusts reaching up to 180 miles an hour in some areas, making it one of the most intense storms to hit the region. Oregon was especially hard hit, with widespread damage across the state. The storm uprooted millions of trees, destroyed thousands of homes, and caused widespread damage to infrastructure. It also led to 46 deaths in Oregon and caused hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. The Columbus Day storm remains a benchmark for severe weather in the Pacific Northwest, and it led to increased awareness and preparedness for future storms in the region. Similarly to New York, Pennsylvania has a varied geomorphology with elevated inland areas and lower coastal areas, particularly near and on the Delaware River and Bay. Rainfall throughout the year in Pennsylvania is consistent and sometimes leads to flooding events. The worst natural disaster in Pennsylvania's history is the Johnstown flood of 1889. This catastrophic event occurred on May 31, 1889, when the South Fork Dam, located upstream of Johnstown, failed after several days of heavy rain. The dam's collapse unleashed 20 million tons of water, creating a massive wave that raced down the valley at speeds of up to 40 miles an hour. The floodwaters devastated the town of Johnstown, destroying homes, businesses, and infrastructure. Over 2,200 people lost their lives, making it one of the deadliest disasters in U.S. history. The disaster also led to a nationwide outpouring of aid and highlighted the need for improved dam safety and infrastructure management. The Johnstown flood remains a tragic and pivotal event in Pennsylvania's history. In the Northeast, Rhode Island is on the Atlantic coast and very susceptible to oceanic storms. And similar to its neighboring New England states, the Great Atlantic Hurricane of 1938 is considered Rhode Island's worst natural disaster. This devastating hurricane struck on September 21, 1938, with little warning causing widespread destruction across Rhode Island. The storm brought winds of up to 120 miles an hour and a massive storm surge that inundated coastal areas. In Providence, the downtown area submerged under more than 12 feet of water, causing extensive damage to buildings and infrastructure. The hurricane claimed the lives of around 600 people across New England, with approximately 100 deaths in Rhode Island alone. The Great New England Hurricane remains the most destructive storm in Rhode Island's history, leading to significant improvements in weather forecasting and disaster preparedness in the region. Like North Carolina, South Carolina is highly prone to tropical storms, and the worst natural disaster in South Carolina's history is Hurricane Hugo, which struck on September 21st and 22nd of 1989. This powerful Category 4 hurricane made landfall just north of Charleston, South Carolina, with sustained winds of 140 miles an hour. Hugo caused widespread devastation along the coast and far inland, with storm surges reaching up to 20 feet and heavy rains causing extensive flooding. Entire communities were destroyed, and the city of Charleston suffered significant damage to homes, businesses, and historic sites. The storm was responsible for 35 deaths in South Carolina and caused over $7 billion in damage, making it one of the most expensive hurricanes in U.S. history at the time. The impact of Hurricane Hugo led to significant improvements in emergency preparedness and building codes across the state. We're done with the 10 states for today. Next week, the series will end with the last 10 states and their worst natural disasters. That will premiere on October 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you want to leave your feedback on this week's episode, please do so in the comment section below. And remember, if you enjoy geography, both physical and human, please subscribe to my channel, Our World, Our Planet, Our Home, to view more videos. Until next time!